Election day is quickly approaching. Find out where the presidential candidates stand in the polls and who GSU students are voting for.
A percentage of students are unable to pay back loans after graduation. How will the federal government go about collecting the borrowed money?
Halloween is just a week away, and we'll let you know of one of the interesting ways Atlanta celebrates
Atlanta's contribution to breast cancer in our SGA meeting update. That and more coming up on this episode of Panther Report.
Good evening, Georgia State. I'm Tia White.
And I'm Ariane Johnson.
First up on Panther Report, a new smoking and tobacco ban has been approved by the Georgia State University Senate. Last Thursday, the university approved a ban that prohibits smoking and tobacco use of any kind on all property owned or leased by the school. This includes locations within 25 feet of all Georgia State building entrances and exits, parking garages, and all GSU-owned vehicles.
Part of the motion was that there was going to be designated smoking and tobacco use areas within all of the university housing facilities, and that all of the city sidewalks would remain open places to smoke.
Georgia State officials say the reason for the smoking ban is to, quote, promote health for students, faculty, staff, and the public.
According to a new study conducted here at Georgia State, research shows that the presidential candidate who spends the most money during his campaign has caused voters to be confused at the polls. Associate Professor of Political Science Sean Ritchie studied presidential elections from 1972 to 2004. He found that voters have continuously voted for the party that spent the most money during their campaign and not the party that they most identified with. Based on his findings, Ritchie has concluded that incorrect voting has led to the wrong candidate being elected in 3 of the last 9 presidential elections. Ritchie said that his study provides evidence for the need for reform in campaign finance.
The youth vote is an important factor this year, and GS students are weighing in on the issues in this year's presidential election. Alexis Carthen has more.
Hold on to your ballots, Panthers. That's right, it's election time again, a time where you get to voice your opinion on whom you think is the best person to hold the title of President of the United States. But before you go to the polls, what are some of the missions of the 2 prime candidates? What are our students doing to stay informed? And who is our diverse student population voting for and why? President Barack Obama supports abortion rights, and with his health care plan, contraceptives are available for free for women enrolled in a workplace with health plans. President Obama suggests tax breaks for U.S. manufacturers producing domestically and tax penalties for U.S. companies outsourcing jobs. He is also in favor of legal recognition of same-sex marriages and wants to raise taxes on people making more than $200,000 annually. Governor Mitt Romney plans to repeal Obamacare and replace it with an almost similar reform, but with a few provisions. He wants to fix the federal deficit by cutting government spending on things that are not of grave importance. Romney also believes that we should keep Bush-era tax cuts for all incomes and drop all tax rates by 20%. With different views from both candidates, it's obvious why students are keeping up with the election. One way students are doing this is by watching the presidential debates.
I watched the first one and then the one yesterday. The first one, I don't really think Obama held his ground enough, but this past one, he was really good, gave some really good points about education.
I didn't get a chance to watch it last night. I had to study, but I do keep up with it via Facebook.
As Election Day draws closer, voters wonder who will win and what will be their deciding factor. Although one of the most important factors is the economy, it seems that though Georgia is considered a red state, Mitt Romney's lack of support of financial aid might be prompting GSU students to vote a bit more liberally or even independently.
I tend to be more independent, but I guess Democratic.
Most likely Obama, but maybe I'll do Ron Paul or something because it's Georgia.
The presidential debate can be an exciting time, but with so many issues and opinions being thrown up at once, it's easy to get lost in the chaos. To eliminate some of the confusion, it's always wise to be informed by watching or catching the highlights of things like the presidential debates, and to always check your facts, no matter which political party you identify with. We'll see you at the polls. Reporting from Georgia State University, Alexis Carthen, Panther Report.
SGA held their Executive Senate meeting last Thursday and voted on the Election Committee. The Election Committee is responsible for supervising and regulating the SGA elections in adherence to the SGA Constitution. SGA also voted on a position for the Institute of Public Health and only had one nominee present, grad student Jason Clemens. Clemens has worked with the university in the past dealing with the 25 feet smoking rule. SGA will hold their next Executive Senate meeting on Thursday, November 1st at 7 p.m.
Speaking of issues students face, 9% of college graduates in Georgia have defaulted loans, which could result in legal action from the federal government. Here's Catherine Witherspoon with the latest on that story.
One of the hottest topics on Capitol Hill is the staggering amount of student loans in default. A recent study released by the U.S. federal government showed an alarming number of student loans in default. Adding to that bulging number is 9% of Georgia students with their student loans in default. Compared to the mortgage crisis, many students and graduates are faced with their own personal recession. I spoke with a few students to get their opinion as to why many Georgia students find their loans in default.
They really give us no choice. I mean, you have to get loans these days because they're cutting hope. I mean, some people don't have means of paying, so you have to have loans. They shouldn't put so much emphasis on having to pay it back so soon. You can't graduate and get a job these days, so how are you able to pay it back? So I don't think it's right.
Dr. Phillips E. Hawkins, the president of the Georgia Association of Student Financial Aid Administrators, offered this advice to Georgia students. Once you enter repayment, if you find yourself in a financial hardship, don't be ashamed and don't overborrow. Define your needs versus your wants. Many students are not aware that the U.S. federal government is considering prosecuting students whose loans go into default. Are you aware that the 9% of Georgia students who have their loans that are in default can face being prosecuted?
What? No, I wasn't familiar with that.
Many students find that after leaving school, a lot of people come calling. If it's not your potential employer, it's going to be your student loans. Typically, students have 6 months to begin repayment on your student loans. However, debt does not necessarily have to mean default. To avoid your student loans going into default, please contact the U.S. Department of Education at www.ed.gov. I'm Catherine Witherspoon, GSTV, Panther Report.
Morehouse College will see some changes come this spring semester. Due to a drop of enrollment, Morehouse will have to cut its budget and furlough faculty. Interim Provost Willis Sheftall says that the drop of enrollment could be due to the economy and changes to a federal loan program for students. Faculty and managers will have to take 5 or 6 furlough days and will reduce part-time faculty. The meningitis outbreak toll rises to 297 cases. The fungal meningitis outbreak has been linked to steroid shots for back pain. So far, 23 people have died. There are no cases in Georgia. In more positive financial news, gas prices have dropped 9 cents since last week in Metro Atlanta, and experts are expecting the prices to continue falling. A AAA spokeswoman says if the decline continues, it's likely we could see prices reach a lower level compared to a year ago. Georgia's average price for a gallon of regular unleaded gas is at $3.54, and the national average price is down 11 cents from last week at $3.68 per gallon.
Every little bit helps, especially for those commuter students.
Absolutely.
$4.2 million. That is the amount that was raised for this year's 12th annual Susan G. Komen 3-day walk. Nearly 1,600 participants covered in pink made the 60-mile trek around the Metro Atlanta over the weekend. Of the money raised, a large percentage will go to national research to support a cure for breast cancer. The 3-day walk will return to Atlanta next October from the 18th to the 20th. Stay tuned to Panther Report. We'll be back more after this.
Welcome and thanks for tuning in to GSTV. We are the Executive Board members of Student Government Association, and my name is Marcus Kernizan, your president.
I'm Taylor Briggs, the Executive Vice President.
My name is Christian Hill, Vice President of Student Services.
My name is Adriana Meshoni. I'm your Vice President of Academic Affairs.
My name is Theo Mahamuza. I'm your Vice President of Budget and Finance.
I'm Danielle Kleiman, and I am your Vice President of Public Relations.
My name is Jarrell Abrams, and I am your Vice President of Student Life.
Are you worried about your schedule getting in the way of the educational and cutting-edge seminars that Georgia State University has to offer? Well, we have great news for you. Starting this semester, these seminars will be available online thanks to GSTV and a partnership from us here at Student Government Association. From the prospect of resume building to the distinctive keynote speakers, we know that these seminars will help enrich your student experience.
Thanks for tuning in, and remember, our student government sit-in meetings will be broadcast live on GSTV every other Thursday at 7 p.m. Go Panthers!
Georgia State is one of the most diverse campuses in the South, boasting a 31% international student population. Caitlin Leonard takes us to GSU's international office to hear why international students choose GSU.
Ich liebe Georgia State.
我好鍾意 Georgia State 啊.
Me encanta Georgia State.
Georgia State University is known for being a very diverse school. Not only is it diverse nationally, but it is also very internationally diverse. We asked 3 international students why they chose GSU and how their experience has been thus far.
Georgia State has a really good reputation, and also the courses that Georgia State offered me were really interesting for me.
It's the hospitality school in Georgia State, ranked the 25th in the United States.
The worst thing to get used for me is food, because I'm always eating fats. I had the meal plan, so I'm always eating and I'm getting big right now.
Some of the countries included in GSU's international program are Spain, China, Germany, Italy, Korea, France, England, Denmark, and many more. So there you have it. We experienced 3 different cultures in just a few interviews, and they all go right here at Georgia State University. Reporting from the International Student and Scholar Service Office, this is Caitlin Leonard for GSTV's Panther Report.
Singer-songwriter Preston Letterman is scheduled to perform at this week's Courtyard Music Series. The soulful jazz musician has been featured on Good Morning America, Inside Edition, and Time Magazine. This is a free event open to all students. The hour-long show will start at noon on Thursday, October 23rd in the University Courtyard.
Starting this week, students can register for spring semester classes by going to their Paul's account. Don't delay registering for classes because classes will fill soon.
It's obvious from the neighborhoods decorated to entertain and even scare passerbyers this year that folks are ready to kick off Halloween.
Indeed. And over the weekend, witches, zombies, and fairy tale creatures crowded Little 5 Points for its annual Halloween festival and parade. Participants enjoyed a host of ghoulish events and music from live bands and community sponsors. If you're still undecided about how to spend Halloween, perhaps Olivia McBride can help you make your mind.
It's that time of year again, Halloween season. Since Halloween season is here, we decided to go visit some Halloween attractions that Georgia State students can enjoy.
Well, this is a different product entirely. We're a niche horror show. We're not a haunted house per se. There's no goblins or ghouls or vampires here. This is kind of like walking into a modern horror movie. It's like you're in the movie Hostel. We refer to ourselves as a horror attraction. It's live action horror. It's extremely edgy. It's adults oriented, 18 and up only. And we do things here that pretty much get you arrested on the outside, okay?
We talked to the Georgia State Spotlight directors to see what Halloween activities students can look forward to on campus.
Yes, we'll have a haunted house this year. It's going to be October 31st, our annual event. This year's theme is Twisted Fairy Tales. We're going to take our childhood fantasies and fairy tales and give it a dark, twisted twist. Yes, we're partnering up with HSO, which is our student organization, and they're bringing different activities, the tarot card reader, a ventriloquist, puppet department, and many different acts like that.
Olivia McBride, Panther Report.
In our national headlines, after the second presidential debate and numerous reports and polls displaying toe-to-toe results, President Barack Obama and opponent presidential candidate Mitt Romney came off their campaign trails to complete their third presidential debate. This debate focused heavily on foreign policy, namely defense cuts and issues in Libya, Iran, and Syria.
"I've been better, but I've also been worse," was the quoted response of cycling legend and cancer survivor Lance Armstrong just before the president of the International Cycling Union officially stripped Armstrong of his medals and banned him from cycling for life. According to the USADA, Armstrong's investigation presented one of the most sophisticated doping programs that cycling has ever seen, and that he should not attempt to appeal the decision. At a Livestrong meeting on Saturday, Armstrong addressed his supporters and resigned as the organization's chairman.
The first defendant of a dozen was sentenced with a third-degree felony charge as a result of last year's hazing death of Florida A&M's drum major Robert Champion. Monday, Judge Mark Lovett charged 23-year-old Brian Jones after an initial plea of not guilty was changed to no contest earlier this month. Champion died in November from his injuries after a band hazing ritual in Orlando after a football game.
Shortly after midnight Saturday, Central California experienced a 5.3 magnitude earthquake. According to the U.S. Geological Survey, about 5,000 people called in after experiencing the moderate tremor, but no injuries or damages have been reported.
In international news, the U.S. presidential candidates discuss foreign policy as violence in the Middle East increases. After clashes in Lebanon broke this weekend due to the increased political tension in the region, the Lebanon army has discouraged all open expression of political stance and affiliation. So far, 2 children were among the 3 reported dead from the newly initiated violence in Tripoli on Sunday. The Lebanon army blames the attack on the Syrian government after the murder and funeral of General Wissam al-Assad, a Sunni and outspoken critic of Syrian President Bashar al-Assad, who is a member of the Shia-based Alawite sect.
A disagreement over a law that would force Google to pay a Google tax has caused Google to threaten the removal of all French newspapers from its search engine. The new law, named Google Law, was proposed by French newspapers from the belief that they should be paid for the presentation of their content, or their copyrights are being compromised.
Pope Benedict XVI named 7 new saints to the Catholic Church during Mass Sunday in Vatican City. Out of the 7, 2 Americans were named, and history was made through the naming of Blessed Kateri Tekakwitha, the first Native American saint to ever be canonized. Vatican Senior Communications Advisor Greg Burke said, quote, "This is a great weekend for America in the Vatican, and it's a really great weekend for Native Americans. Holiness is an absolute matter of equal opportunity."
Stay right here for GSU Homecoming Recap and more sports with Brent Yancey after this.
Does it feel like your alarm clock goes off earlier every morning? Do you have trouble waking up? Have you seen a doctor about this? If not, you can get your daily dose of caffeine at Saxby's.
I'm Brent Yancey with the Panther Report Sports Update. This hasn't been a great week for GSU sports. First up, GSU football team falls to Villanova on homecoming weekend, 49-24. Panthers gained a total of 309 yards against Villanova's 343 yards. Junior Albert Wilson had 6 catches for a total of 104 yards and had 5 kick returns for 176 yards with a total of 2 touchdowns. Redshirt junior Travis Evans took the place of Donald Russell after leaving the game in the first quarter with a knee injury. Evans ran a 9-yard touchdown with 1 minute 38 seconds left before the half and cut the lead 38-10. With many efforts, the Panthers were not able to pull off the victory. Reporter Vanessa Vidikin was on site. Let's go to her for more.
On October 20th, Georgia State football held their homecoming game against Villanova at the Georgia Dome. During the first half, Villanova led with a 21-0 lead 31 seconds into the second quarter. With less than 10 minutes left in the first half, Georgia State scored a field goal, but still had not managed to score a touchdown. After an interception by Eric Loper, Georgia State finally found rhythm scoring with a 9-yard run by Travis Evans. The Panthers left the half trailing 35-10. Though Georgia State scored 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter, the team still fell short, suffering a loss of 49-24.
Villanova team pushed us around all day, and there really aren't words for it. I don't have an explanation. I don't have an excuse. We've got 3 more opponents coming up. They're ranked higher, 2 of them ranked higher than Villanova, so we've got the work to do to get ready to go to James Madison and finish this season with some dignity, but it'll have to be a whole lot better than today.
I think we started off with momentum on our side, then they stopped us on our first drive when we received the ball, and after that, we ain't had the fight that we should have had from the get-go.
Georgia State's last home game will be November 3rd versus Old Dominion. This will also be Bill Curry's final home game as head coach. I'm Vanessa Vidikin, and this has been Panther Report for GSTV.
The Panthers' next game will be next Saturday, 3:30 at James Madison. GSU men's soccer team also took a loss this past Saturday, 1-0 against Drexel. Freshman William Malores Blair led the Panthers with 5 shots, including 2 on goal. GSU had the opportunity to score against Drexel to tie the game until defender Ty Bublil batted the ball down with his hands. This allowed GSU redshirt junior Caleb Kernan the chance at a penalty kick, but the penalty kick was blocked. The Panthers will host their next game against Old Dominion. GSU's volleyball team could not execute this past Friday, losing to James Madison 3-0. In the first 2 periods, GSU fell to the Dukes by only 2 points, whereas in the third, Panthers lost 25-19. Senior Jamie Freeman led GSU with 1 solo rejection and 3 block assists. Freeman also posted her 4th double-double of the season. Panthers' next game is this Sunday at 1 p.m. against George Mason. In local sports, Atlanta Falcons did not play this past Sunday due to their bye week. Falcons return to play this Sunday against the Philadelphia Eagles, where they will face former Falcons quarterback Michael Vick. That's all for your sports update. I'm Brent Yancey, Panther Report.
That's all for your Panther Report news. Thank you for joining us on this week's episode.
Don't forget to check us out on Channel 91 in University Housing and on our YouTube page, GSTV Panther Report, every Wednesday at 6 p.m.
Make sure to visit our Facebook page at www.facebook.com/Panther Report. I'm Tia White.
And I'm Ariane Johnson. Have a good night.